Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that the men who are often the sharpest thinkers, the ones who see life from a higher perspective, are the very same men who walk alone? Isn't it strange that men with intelligence, vision, and clarity, men who should be the most attractive, are the ones who are often left misunderstood, misjudged, and misused? It's not because they cannot get a woman. It's not because they are socially weak. It's because their mind operates on a frequency that most people cannot reach. And that gap, my friends, is exactly why so many intelligent men remain single. Let's break it down. They refuse to settle for shallow connections because they understand that a relationship without depth quickly turns into a burden. For an intelligent man, attraction is never just about looks. It's about energy, values, and the quality of conversation. He needs someone who can challenge his mind, not just decorate his life. When he sits with a woman, he's not impressed by surface-level talk about trends, gossip, or material things. He wants to feel a spark in the dialogue, a sense that this person sees the world beyond what's in front of them. That's why when he realizes a woman cannot engage his mind, he quietly distances himself, not because he looks down on her, but because he knows that a shallow bond will eventually leave him empty. While most men might settle for attention, intimacy, or validation just to fill a void, an intelligent man is not built that way. He'd rather spend his time in solitude reading, creating, or pursuing his goals than sitting in a relationship that feels hollow. And here's the truth. This standard makes him rare. He may be surrounded by women, but very few truly connect with him on the level he desires. Some may mistake this as arrogance, but in reality it's discipline. He knows that if he gives his time, his energy, and his heart to someone who cannot reciprocate at the same depth, he is betraying himself. That's why he walks away when things remain shallow, because for him love must be an ocean, not a puddle. They see through games and manipulation because their mind has been trained to recognize patterns. An intelligent man doesn't just listen to what you say. He pays attention to how you say it, to the pauses between your words, to the subtle shifts in your tone, and the inconsistencies in your behavior. He notices when your actions don't match your promises. He can sense when you are trying to test him, when you are withholding attention to provoke a reaction, or when you're using flattery as a tool to gain influence. These tactics may work on men who are desperate for validation, but they lose their power on a man who values truth more than temporary affection. The reason manipulation fails with him is simple. He isn't blinded by his desire for approval. He doesn't need someone else to tell him who he is. He has already built his self-worth from within, so no woman can control him through mind games. When a woman tries to play hard to get or uses silence as punishment, he doesn't chase. He steps back because he knows attention should flow naturally, not be forced like a bargain. When she tries to spark jealousy by mentioning other men, he doesn't fall into insecurity. Instead, he sees it as immaturity. And this is where many women misunderstand him. They think their little tricks will make him fight harder for them. But what actually happens is the opposite. He loses respect. He knows that love built on deception is fragile, and he has no interest in living inside a performance. To him, peace is more valuable than passion that comes wrapped in drama. That's why the moment he senses manipulation, he quietly distances himself. Not out of anger, but out of wisdom, because he understands that a woman who needs games to hold his attention is not ready for the kind of depth he is seeking. Their standards are rooted in principles, not desperation, and that's exactly what sets them apart from the average man. Most men lower their guard when loneliness creeps in. They compromise their values just to have someone by their side, even if that person doesn't align with their purpose. But an intelligent man refuses to live this way. He doesn't chase love to fill a void because his life is already built on purpose, growth, and direction. He understands that desperation makes people blind, and he would never trade his peace for temporary companionship. When it comes to choosing a partner, he looks far beyond physical beauty or fleeting excitement. He examines character, integrity, loyalty, and emotional maturity. He asks himself, can this woman grow with me, or will she hold me back? Can she respect my mission, or will she compete with it? Can she add value to my life, or will she drain it? These questions guide him like a compass, and if the answers don't align with his principles, he chooses solitude without hesitation. This is why women often misunderstand him. They might see his standards as being too picky, but in reality, he is simply protecting his future. He knows that one wrong relationship can cost him years of wasted time, broken energy, and lost opportunities. That's why he would rather wait than rush. He would rather build his empire alone than risk giving his crown to someone who doesn't deserve it. For him, love must complement his purpose, not replace it. That's why his standards remain firm, because he knows that true commitment requires more than chemistry. It requires compatibility on the deepest level. And until he finds that, he will remain content, because his dignity is far more important to him than temporary affection. They value freedom over forced love because they understand that love without respect is nothing more than a prison warm, with pretty walls. An intelligent man knows that real love should flow naturally, without control, without pressure, and without manipulation. The moment he feels that he is being forced into a box, that his individuality is being stripped away, or that his choices are being dictated, he loses interest immediately. For him, freedom is not negotiable. It is the core of his identity. Most people are willing to sacrifice their freedom just to avoid being alone. They tolerate toxic behavior, they silence their own needs, and they let their partner dominate them because they fear rejection. But an intelligent man would never sell his freedom in exchange for conditional affection. He has worked too hard on himself, too long on his vision, and too deeply on his inner peace to allow someone to come and cage him under the label of love. He understands that love should be a partnership, not a dictatorship. A woman who truly loves him will walk beside him, not try to control his path. She will give him space to breathe, to grow, and to pursue his mission instead of clipping his wings to make him easier to handle. And that's why he is not afraid to walk away from relationships where freedom is restricted. He would rather face the silence of solitude than live in the suffocation of forced companionship. To him, freedom is a form of love, self-love. If he loses his freedom, he loses himself. And if he loses himself, no relationship in the world can save him. This is why so many intelligent men choose to stay single until they find a woman who understands this truth. Real love does not bind, it liberates. Real love does not demand, it supports. Real love does not chain, it sets free. They intimidate insecure women not because they try to, but because their very presence exposes what others are trying to hide. An intelligent man doesn't need to boast about his worth. His confidence is quiet, his composure is steady, and his vision is clear. This calm strength unsettles women who are unsure of themselves, because deep down they know they cannot manipulate or control him the way they might with men who crave validation. His independence makes her question her own influence. His discipline makes her feel her games are powerless. His clarity makes her insecurities louder. Insecure women often thrive when they are in control, when they can bend a man's emotions, when they can test his reactions, when they can feed on his weaknesses. But with an intelligent man, these tactics collapse. He doesn't react to her threats of leaving. He doesn't beg for her attention, and he doesn't fall for emotional blackmail. Instead, he responds with calm detachment, and that very response shakes her because it shows her that she has no power over him. To an insecure woman, that is terrifying. And here's the paradox. While some women are drawn to this kind of strength, others are deeply threatened by it. The insecure ones feel exposed in his presence. They realize that to be with him, they cannot hide behind masks or manipulations. They would need to grow, to evolve, to face their own flaws. And rather than rise to that challenge, many retreat, labeling him too difficult or too cold. when in reality, he is simply too strong for their insecurities to handle. This is why intelligent men often find themselves single. It's not that women don't like them. It's that insecure women feel they cannot keep up, and secure women who can match them are rare. His strength, instead of being embraced, is often misunderstood as arrogance. But the truth is, he doesn't intimidate by force. He intimidates by being unshakable, and not every woman is ready for that level of presence. They know that loneliness is better than the wrong partner because they've seen what happens when men tie themselves to someone who doesn't truly align with them. An intelligent man understands that the wrong woman can cost him far more than being single ever will. The wrong woman can drain his energy, sabotage his goals, and even destroy his peace of mind. He's watched others lose their focus, their confidence, and even their identity in the name of holding on to love that wasn't love at all. That's why he refuses to make that mistake. For him, being alone is not a punishment. It is a place of clarity. Solitude gives him the time to build, to grow, to sharpen his vision. He would rather spend his nights in silence reflecting on his dreams than in arguments with someone who doesn't respect them. He knows that forced companionship often brings chaos, while walking alone allows him to preserve his strength. Many people fear being alone, so they settle for relationships that break them little by little. But he knows that settling is the most expensive mistake a man can make. When an intelligent man chooses to be single, it is not because he is unloved or unwanted. It is because he is disciplined enough to wait for something real. He sees loneliness as temporary, but he sees the wrong partner as a lifetime of regret. That's why he is willing to walk alone for years if it means avoiding the trap of a toxic relationship. His heart is not led by desperation, but by wisdom. And here's the truth. This choice, though difficult, is what keeps him powerful. Because while others waste time trying to fix the wrong person, he invests that same energy into fixing himself, building his life, and preparing for someone who will actually value it. He knows that true love will never require him to sacrifice his peace. And until that love arrives, he is content in his solitude because he would rather be lonely in freedom than imprisoned in the wrong relationship. So the next time you see an intelligent man walking alone, don't mistake it for weakness. He's not unloved. He's not unwanted. He's simply too rare to be with someone ordinary, because a wise man would rather stand tall in solitude than kneel for a connection that has no soul,